Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
So we will start with our prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्तकांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते रघुनाथ संदाय विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषवादी पाश्चात्य कम करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्येश्वरम। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। श्री कार्तिक मास की जय। श्री दामोदर भगवान की जय। So thank you all for joining. I know a few devotees are busy today. They've already informed me they are organizing their own Damodar programs. They have told that they are busy serving. So that is of course very appreciable. So they have requested to be excused. So that's a happy reason to be excused. Also just now I was listening to the live class of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. It's still going on. Maharaj is giving a live class from Jagannath Puri, discussing the beautiful pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri. We discussed much of those of what Maharaj is narrating today in our Chaitanya Charitamrita series. So beautiful, so nice as Maharaj is narrating. Because when pure souls narrate those pastimes, it is so sweet to hear. It is so relishable because they bring those pastimes alive. And they narrate with such a relish that it actually really touches the innermost core of our heart and allows us, even at our neophyte stage, to develop some positive attraction towards the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes. So it was very wonderful. Anyway, so we have to do our service, at least for me here. So I told Ram and Sham to listen to the class, and because I had already announced, so I said we will continue with our katha, all in service of one Krishna. So we are continuing our narration of the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are discussing today the 5th chapter of the 6th canto. The chapter has a very interesting title. Narad Muni cursed by Prajapati Daksha. Interesting title, isn't it? So please note that, this kind of incidents, challenges, problematic situations, talking about situations here, will continue in the material world, no matter who you become. So, of course, great souls like Narada Muni are not disturbed by somebody's curse or any kind of external adversities. Nonetheless, sometimes in our neophyte stage, we expect, oh, I have become a devotee now. Now everything should become okay. Nobody should quarrel with me. Everybody should respect me, and everything should be fine around me. But you will see that the nature of the material world remains the nature of the material world. We are not becoming devotees to change the nature of the material world, because that is impossible. We are becoming devotees so that we develop a transcendental consciousness. So we are not affected by the continuous waves on the ocean of the three modes of material nature. We transcend. Just like even though there are waves in the ocean, if you're sitting on top of on the deck of a huge, wonderful cruise liner, you can sit on the top and not be affected by the waves. Of course, even then, even then, if you're on the ocean, you will feel some up and down motion. So that's the nature of the material world when great souls have it. Anyway, so this is a very interesting pastime. This is another pastime of conflict. As I mentioned, this chapter is full of interesting situations, often where two devotees are engaged. In some cases, in most of these cases, one is a more exalted devotee, another is a devotee but not that advanced. Both have their perspectives, both are working towards their own objectives, of their own understanding of Krishna's, of how to serve Krishna, and beautiful lessons emerge from that. So this is another lesson, that even amongst devotees there can be different opinions. So of course it is best to follow the instructions of our own spiritual master with regards to how we should progress, because that is the nature of the material world. And even within the spiritualists, even within pure devotees, there will be slight variations in opinion. We are not talking about opinions about the nature of the absolute truth or the nature of the soul, but we are talking about how a particular situation should be dealt with, what is the right thing to do in a particular situation, differences between what is a higher principle in certain contexts. So in those matters, there is room for a healthy debate, because dharma is also dynamic. Dharma is dynamic. Dharma is not a checklist. Dharma, the innermost core of dharma, is understood in the heart of a pure devotee. And we discussed this principle earlier also. So the more we become advanced, the more we become cognizant of the reality of dharma, and the more we will have the divine intelligence to do the best thing in a situation. If you understand what I say. Just by learning scriptures, that's a good starting point and a necessary starting point. But you cannot be going around with the Bhagavad Gita, everywhere, and even if you go around with it, no, I mean nothing perfect to go around with Bhagavad Gita. What I'm saying is, suddenly enter a quarrel with your bhajiwala in the Nashik market. You say, now what I should do? Then you start looking through the pages. Oh, I should apply this verse, or I should apply this verse, or I should. So many situations are there, so many realities are there. What is the context? What is your situation? What is the contextual situation? What is your evolution? Because you have to act according to your dharma. You cannot act higher than your advancement. You should not act lower than your advancement. So dharma is not At one time I used to have that thinking. Oh, why don't we compile a big compendium of, in this situation do this, in this situation do this. And over time, I realized, no. This is not how dharma works. Of course, guiding principles and frameworks are there. And that is why scriptures are still necessary, principles are still necessary. But what principle to apply in what situation? and how to apply, with what intensity to apply, because so many principles are there. Some of them may seem contradictory in a particular situation. So only when we become spiritually more mature, we understand what Krishna would like us to do in a particular situation. So that is the symptom of advancement. And that is why we want to take guidance of the Nirmatsara pure devotees. Those who are pure, more closer to Krishna and without envy. When we take their guidance, especially when we are not able to see the light of Dharma very clearly reflected in our hearts, then it is good to continue to consult great souls, and then we can follow their instructions. So that is always the safe path. So anyway, so there are beautiful lessons in this pastime. We are discussing about Daksha. We discussed in the last class about how Daksha was reborn. The Daksha, who is the father of Mother Sati, after that embarrassing episode of his conflict with Lord Shiva, and then eventually getting goat head and then giving up that body. Eventually, from that Swayambhuva Manvantara, he was reborn in the Chakshusha Manvantara, in this dynasty of Dhruva. And then he became a Prajapati. His name was still Daksha. He was very keen. His service to God was to populate the universe. So different kind of devotees are inspired in different ways to serve the Lord. Some want to serve God by becoming a Kshatriya. Some want to earn money for the Lord in a Vaishya way. Some want to teach scriptures. So there are different ways. And Krishna accepts service from all categories of devotees. Of course, he loves the pure devotees the most, but he accepts the seva and helps elevate those who are mixed devotees. So Daksha is a category of a person who is still a mixed devotee. He is very much a devotee of Lord Hari. He's a Prajapati. He has been given the responsibility. It's like a ministerial position in the universal department. What kind of ministry? Ministry of increasing population, of populating the universe. And he didn't just go about marrying and producing children. He performed austerities. He knew how serious this responsibility is. And with intense austerities, we discussed in the last chapter how he pleased Lord Vishnu. He got the darshan of Lord Vishnu. So before we get too excited to criticize Daksha, please understand, he got darshan of Lord Vishnu, where Lord Vishnu personally gave darshan and blessed him. But understanding his mixed motivation, the Lord also accordingly blessed him. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manusya partha sarvashah. As a person approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. Those who want pure devotion, the Lord gives pure devotion. Those who want opulence, empowerment for serving according to a particular propensity or desire, the Lord fulfills it. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. So when the Lord appeared, he was so overwhelmed, he fell down flat. He didn't know what to say. Suddenly, you prepare everything and suddenly, the object of your worship appears blank. But the Lord, understanding the desire, he blessed him. He said, I give you unlimited power to procreate, and I also give you the right spouse in the form of a Asikni. And we spoke about her background and all that. So Daksha Prajapati, he married this Asikni, who was also known as Panchajani. And it is said in the womb of Panchajani, 10,000 sons were born to Prajapati. Now, this is a different kind of level of Prajapatis. So, if you apply this kind of a logic, 10,000 children in modern time to any couple, it's practically impossible. Please understand, these are not Mumbai, Kuala Lumpur, Delhi, Nasik kind of couple. These are Prajapatis. They are empowered personalities by the Lord to populate the universe. So they can have 10,000 children and still be, hale and hearty. So the first lot of 10,000 children of Daksha and Panchajani were known as the Haryashvas. All wonderful first class children. Daksha also very pious, very religious, performing austerities, following all regulative principles. His wife very religious, very good followers of family life according to Vedic rituals. And they got very good children, very gentle, very obedient. It's a great blessing, and especially so in Kali Yuga, to have children who are very gentle and obedient to the parents, especially in today's generation. That itself is a big blessing. To see husband, wife, and their children who are obedient to them and nice, gentle devotees is a, if we can achieve that, we are especially blessed. So their father Daksha, he told when they came of age, he said, I have produced you so that you can produce children and populate the universe. So now you have to perform this seva. And again, you have to prepare for the seva. What is the preparation? You have to do austerities. Yeah. Amazing culture, right? I mean, to populate the universe, they perform austerities to produce qualified children. So these 10,000 brothers, they set out together in the western direction. It is said they went to the area known as the Narayana Saras. That's an area where the Sindhu River meets the ocean. So it is said many great saintly people in the times of yore would stay there. So in that place, the Haryashvas, they stayed. Every day they would bathe in the waters of that very holy place, the Narayan Saras. They would touch the water, do achman, they would bathe. And by performing austerities, by bathing in those purified water, gradually their consciousness became so much purified. And through their devotional activities, that they were becoming so much purified that rather than being inclined towards family life and producing children, they were becoming more and more detached from material life and more inclined towards a transcendental life. So this is what happens when one earnestly follows the path of spiritual activities. So even though they were developing some disinclination, but yeah, they knew our father has ordered us, you have to do this austerities, you have to then produce children. So they stuck to their assigned duty. So at one time, the great Narada Muni was passing along that place and he saw these 10,000 boys. Oh. So when a great preacher sees a qualified audience to receive the transcendental message, the preacher becomes very excited. What does a preacher want? A preacher wants a receptive, eager audience to hear. Today morning, I was talking to Suraj Prabhu, Tarun Prabhu and their families. They are organizing a wonderful Damodar program. They're expecting around 200, 250 people to attend. They're very enthusiastically setting up everything. They were showing me all their setup and everything. So they're saying, Prabhu, we are praying that, 200, 250 should come. Please pray that people will come. So those who are preaching, they're very eager. So Narad Muni, the greatest of preacher, the transcendental Veena man, who's Narada Muni, Bajai Veena, Radhika Ramanana, saw these 10,000 ripe candidates to be elevated to devotional service. He approached them. They offered obeisances to Narad Muni. And Narad Muni spoke a very interesting shloka to these Haryashvas. And I'll just recite the translation to that shloka. It's covered over 3 verses. But essentially, he says, oh, my dear Haryashvas, you're not very experienced. You haven't seen all the extremities of the earth. You've not explored the earth. You are not yet so experienced. Actually, there is a kingdom where one man lives and where there is a hole from which, having entered, no one comes out again. And there, a woman who is extremely unchaste and who attractively dresses herself with various kinds of attractive dresses. And she stays there with this man who lives there as her husband. In that kingdom where this unchaste prostitute stays with this man, there is a river which flows in both directions. And there is a wonderful home made of 25 materials. There is a swan there, which vibrates various sounds. And there is also an automatically revolving object made of sharp razors and thunderbolts. You all have not seen all this. You are not so experienced, and therefore you are inexperienced because you do not have advanced knowledge. Since you don't have advanced knowledge, how will you create good progeny? Alas, your father is all knowing, but you don't know the actual purpose and his actual order. Without actually knowing the purpose of your father, how will you create progeny? Now, this was a very interesting way that Narad Muni put this whole situation in front of them. Basically, he told them that you are inexperienced, and he gave an analogy. And then he said, your father knows the real purpose, but you have not understood the real instructions of your father. So he just said like that and stopped. So these 10,000 Haryashvas, they very carefully, attentively heard. They had great respect for Narad Muni. They were very, very intelligent, sharp personalities. So they didn't even have to ask Narad Muni, please explain. Like previously when we discussed the story of Prachina Barhi, Narad Muni gives such an elaborate analogy, and then so much explanation was also given. Finally, he understood. Haryashvas were very, very smart. So Shukdev Goswami says, and he tells Parikshit Maharaj that these Haryashvas were so intelligent that with their intelligence, when they reflected on the words of Narad Muni, they themselves could understand, all 10,000 of them, what exactly Narad Muni was trying to say. So Shukdev Goswami explains the understanding of Narada's analogy, the 10,000 Haryashvas. And I'm going to briefly explain because there are a lot of philosophical points there, and we may not have time to cover and discuss everything. You should read the purports and the verses for that. But essentially, the Haryashvas are realized that actually what Narad Muni is trying to say, that this material world is a very dangerous place. Once you enter into this material world, especially with the desire to enjoy and get into a materialistic family life, then to get out is very difficult. Especially when the man is associating with this unchaste prostitute. Who's this unchaste prostitute? The materialistic intelligence is an unchaste prostitute. Why? Because this unchaste prostitute is always asking for enjoyment. Material intelligence is always saying, enjoy this, enjoy this, enjoy this. And it bewilders the living entity and entraps him in this material. Actually, this entire material world is owned by the Lord and made by the 25 elements. This is the property of the Lord. And the Lord is always transcendental. He is not affected. But living beings are continuously trying to enjoy the facilities of this material world. Since time immemorial, this bhu, this earth, which is the field of activities, where by performing different activities, a person performs, then he gets the reactions. This whole field of activities, where living entities become entrapped because of their identification with material nature. So he understood that, the Haryashvas understood. Narada Muni is saying, what benefit will you get by this kind of a pursuit of family life, producing children, this, all that? Is that really an auspicious path? You will only get entrapped. Don't you know this whole world is belonging to the Lord and is for the Lord's enjoyment? This material world is like a hole where having once entered one never comes out. Which means if one goes downward, two kinds of people are very difficult to see back in this world. Of course, those who have transcended the material world and gone back to the spiritual world, obviously they never come. Yad gatvana nivardante tad dhamam paramam mama. They are never seen back. That is guaranteed never seen. Also, those who go to the lower planets, all the way up to Patal, could be any of the Bilas Vargas, they also get trapped in their material enjoyment so much that they rarely come up again. Because once you get, Krishna says this, that those who are too sinful, I cast them deeply into such demoniac species that practically for long, long, long time, not theoretically unlimited, but correct. Sometimes, like you say, once he has gone there, he'll never come back. Gone for a long time. So those who get too absorbed in material activities tend to get out of that hole, deep dark hole. Griham andhakupam, the Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj says. This kind of materialistic family life. We're not talking about devotional family life. Materialistic family life is a deep dark hole. The Harish was understood. Why should we jump into this hole? We are already coming to the point of realization that this material life is miserable. We are feeling the joy of spiritual life through our austerities and devotional service. What will we actually gain by going in the path that our father Daksha has told us? Yeah, and they understood that if we follow this unchaste prostitute, our materialistic mind, it is actually going to trick us and keep us frustrated within the material world, going through sukha, dukkha, janma, mrityu, all these dualities. We will remain trapped. We will remain trapped in the place where the river flows in two directions. One direction is creation, one direction is dissolution, which means material nature is a continuous state of flux. Why? Because there is this time factor, this, you mentioned about the chakra, rotation of the sharp, the form of time with the sharp razor-like chakra of time, everything is being cut, which means in due course, everything is destroyed. There's creation, destruction, creation, destruction. So what lasting good can come through material activities? See, the important point to understand is what Narada Muni is trying to say. See, you are trying to produce children, do this, do that, but please understand what is it that the Lord has created this entire material manifestation with the ultimate objective of giving them an opportunity to purify their heart from all materialistic desires, develop love for Him, and come back to Godhead. If you are already inclined to love God and progress on the path back to Godhead, why are you going in the direction of material enjoyment? Because the whole purpose of creation by the Lord is to give the facility to the soul. And then the Haryashvas were contemplating on the analogy and the analogy of the swan making beautiful sounds. They understood Narad Muni saying that the swan making the sounds are sounds of the instructions of the Vedas. So this man with this unchaste prostitute-like intelligence, when he hears beautiful sounds which are coming from the Vedas, he understands, he regains his higher intelligence. And this Shastra is our real father. Our material father is also respectable and should be worshipped. But the father that Narad Muni is referring to is not his physical father. He is saying you have not understood the real instructions of your real father. And the scriptures are the real father. See, the scriptures say there are two kinds of birth. One birth is the seminal birth, which comes from the parents. But the real birth is the second birth, Vijay, when one learns Vedas from the spiritual master. That is the real father. And in fact, the scriptures say that that father, bodily father, who doesn't teach his children the instructions from the real father coming down through the scriptures, is not authorized, is not accepted to be a bona fide father. Dhru na sasyat, janani na sasyat, pita na sasyat, sajano na sasyat. There's a beautiful verse, the Bhagavatam, to this effect also. Don't become a father, guru, king, relative, or any kind of superior unless you can give proper instructions and deliver your dependents. So it is the duty of all superiors to be well versed in Shastra themselves and instruct and guide their dependents. That is our duty. Essentially, Narada Muni is telling, your father hasn't understood scripture properly. At least not the highest aspect of scripture. So listen to the swans. And who's the swan here? The message of the swan, Narada Muni himself is giving. The Guru. Because from where are we going to understand the Vedas? Not simply by Google, download PDF, read. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Sometimes the Vedas can be so bewildering, one may actually reach a wrong conclusion. Many people read the Vedas and reach the conclusion that material enjoyment is the goal of life. So, the Haryashvas were very intelligent. They understood. Net, Narad Muni is telling us, your father hasn't given you a very good instruction. Your real father has given the real instruction, which is ultimate goal, to transcend. And why we should get into this dangerous hole of material enjoyment. See, why material enjoyment is so dangerous? Because material enjoyment is blinding to the soul. What does it mean? The nature of Maya has two kinds of energies. The Prakshepatmika and the Avaranatmika. Prakshepatmika means that energy which projects, which means attracts the attention. So our consciousness becomes absorbed in flickering happiness rather than eternal happiness. Second, Avaranatmika covers over our real knowledge. So in the dark well, one becomes forgetful of what is one's real welfare. And one can go so far away from the real goal of life that one can actually get lost. So Narad Muni is telling them why you want to risk Griham Andakupam. You are already ripe with knowledge. You have purified yourself so much. Now, after so much purification, you want to go and go down this path? Are you sure? That's not the instruction of the Vedas. So, when the Haryashvas heard, this is the first class disciple. Who's the first class disciple? Who attentively and faithfully listens to the spiritual master, receives the words, understands this perfectly, and immediately follows it. They didn't argue. All 10,000 of them heard 3 verses and they were confirmed. Done. Convinced. They immediately accepted Narad Muni as the spiritual master. They circumambulated Narad Muni and took the path of the Paramhamsas and never went back to the house of their father. Which means literally they took sannyas and eventually through the practice of devotional service attained the supreme abode. And after having instructed his disciples, Narad Muni has such illustrious disciples. And we are so fortunate to be in the line from Narad Muni. So we are also getting those instructions. Narad Muni delivered these 10,000 Haryashvas. And then playing his Veena, continued to travel all over the world. Narad Muni is such a great soul. The Bhagavatam says, playing on his musical notes, the transcendental notes of his Veena, which originally come from the Samveda. Narad Muni is continuously glorifying the Lord, and his mind is fully absorbed in the lotus feet of the Lord. And he's directly able to perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rishikesh, every moment. And he travels around in that mood, in that devotion, enlightening all souls. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna. Narad Muni is such a perfect example. He's not only relishing bhakti, but he's the carrier of bhakti shakti. He's infusing all living entities with bhakti. So the news, Daksha was waiting. अब तक बच्चे आए नहीं. My 10,000 children have not come back. They had gone to prepare themselves for marriage, for entering Grihastha Ashram. I'm here about to arrange their marriage. What happened? Not yet come, not yet come. So finally the news came to Daksha. Oh, Daksha, your 10,000 children, they happened to meet Narad Muni, and rather than coming back home, they went to the forest and took sannyas. And Daksha was, absolutely besides himself. That such well-behaved, such cultured sons I had produced and trained and sent them for. And see, Narad Muni, he came and he polluted the intelligence of my children, and he misguided them, and they have gone to the forest, and he was really lamenting. He was very disturbed. Correct? Typically, a materialistic parents, their children take to the path of the Paramhamsas and become totally dedicated to the Lord. Actually, they should be happy. How many of you here will be happy if your children take to the path of renunciation and dedicate their life to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? If you think yes, raise your hand. Honestly, yeah. Yes, yeah. One or two have raised their hands. I will be happy personally, because I myself had attempted that path earlier. So for me, if I see my children at any time, they want to take that path, then that is definitely wonderful. But generally, the response of parents is they become very afraid. Generally, parents want their children to be religious, but they want to have them, do nice job, earn nice money, have nice family life, achieve nice status in society, and then they can show them around. See, we have such illustrious children, and have grandchildren, Ata graha sutta apta vitta janasya mohoyam aham. So that is the general mentality. Yeah, we want they can recite little bit Bhagavad Gita, they can do some puja, but jada mat karo. Don't do too much. So Daksha was of that category. Even though he's pretty exalted, he's not like the average Kali Yuga father. He saw Lord Vishnu, but still he had that conception. No, should first enjoy material life, have a nice religious married life. Why to hurry into renunciation and all this? This is not the way. That was his mentality. So he became very disturbed. He became so disturbed that Lord Brahma had to come to him and console him. Arey Baba, it's okay. Not so bad after all. They went and took to the path of devotional service and this and that. So Brahma pacified him. So somehow Daksha got pacified. He didn't confront Narad Muni. He said, okay, whatever it is. No problem. I am Daksha. I am expert in producing children. He produced another 1,000 children in the womb of his wife Panchajani. And this group of 1,000 children, these 1,000 brothers were known as the Shavalashvas. So again, when time came, the great Daksha told these 10 Shavalashvas that you now go and perform austerities, then come back. You have to produce children and help me in my seva to expand the population of the. They also went to Narayan Saras, the same place where earlier their 10,000 elder brothers had performed austerities. And they also continued to be in that place, perform great austerities. Pretty much in the same way like their elder brothers. Again, Narad Muni spotted them. So, Narad Muni came. And by that time, they were performing such austerity, they said, for a few months, these 1,000 Savalashvas were only drinking water and breathing air, no food. And they were offering obeisances to Lord Narayan, uttering Narayan mantra. So Narad Muni approached these 10,000, 1,000 brothers and he spoke to them. And Narad Muni this time didn't give any long class. Narad Muni told the 1,000 Shavalashvas, oh, you are also here. You're so wonderful. Your elder brothers were also here, 10,000 of them, some time ago. Don't you know what they did? Aren't your elder brothers dear to you? Do you know what they did? They renounced the material world and dedicated their life to the transcendental service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So don't you want to follow the path that your elder brothers took? So typically, Vedic tradition also the elder brother who's more mature sets the path that the younger brothers take. Understanding that their elder brothers were so exalted and they attained the lotus feet of the Lord by taking to the path of the Paramhamsas, they realize that that path is so much better than the path that Daksha Maharaj is telling us, which leads to fruitive activity. So having received the hint and having been blessed by the merciful glance of Narad Muni, the Shavalashvas also intelligently and instantly decided, yes, we also don't want to get involved in this materialistic life. We also want to follow our elder brothers. We are not interested in producing children. They also decided, we also want to go. Where did our elder brothers go? There, in this direction. Okay, we are also going. So 10,000 went first, and following the same path, the 1,000 Shavalashvas also went. The news reached Daksha that the 1,000 Shavalashvas also encountered Narad Muni again. And they also renounced everything and are not coming back home. And this time Prajapati Daksha was mad with rage. They said he practically fainted out of lamentation. Fir se, once more. So much effort. I produced so many children and brought them up and sent them for austerities. You see, from an external perspective, he had led a very pious, sattvic life, following dharma, done everything right. And think, how come such a misfortune? According to him, misfortune. Actually, it was such a wonderful thing which happened. But being not fully pure in his consciousness, he was thinking, oh, how come such calamity befell my children again? So he was very, very angry. So he was so angry, it is said, when Daksha met Narada, soon thereafter, Daksha was trembling with anger. And he became so upset with Narad Muni that he started chastising Narad Muni. Actually, Narad Muni is so exalted. But thinking Narad Muni as a faulty person, mischievous person. See, sometimes, even nowadays, people make fun of Narad Muni as if he's a mischievous person who creates problems, does mischief, without actually understanding the transcendental greatness of Narad Muni. They criticize and commit offenses. They don't understand the actual glory of Narad Muni and how he is such a dear servitor of the Lord. Those who are helping others engage in transcendental devotional service, Krishna himself says, there is no one more dear to me than he. Tasman manisheshu kashin mama priyakritam. One more dear. Nor will there ever be anyone more dear. Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita. And Narad Muni is the topmost of the preachers. Prajapati Daksha felt very self-righteous. He felt offended. He felt that Narad Muni had wronged him. So he started arguing and chastising Narad Muni. The first thing he does is he criticizes Narad Muni by saying, oh, you actually just dress up like a saint, but you're not a real sadhu. But I am a sadhu, even though I'm a grihastha. Actually, Narad Muni is so great. This is what happens because of material opulence and other things. When a pious person sometimes just becomes proud, he thinks, I am so great by following religious principles. You are not saintly. You are just wearing the clothes of a saintly person. I am saintly. So I am a grihastha. And you have done such injustice, such an abominable action by inciting my children to renunciation. And then he started giving him instructions on why he should not have asked his children to renounce. Don't you know, my children, they had not yet become free from the various debts, the Pitra Rina, the Rishi Rina, the Deva Rina. They should have married, they should have done yajnas, they should have produced children, then they would have become free from all these material rinas. But you, even when they are not free, you incited them for renunciation, make them run away from home, rather than making them auspicious. You have shown such a cruel mentality and propelled these boys, young innocent boys of mine. You're such a shameless person, devoid of compassion. And you call yourself a great devotee who's associating with the Lord's pure devotees? Very harsh language Daksha is using. Narada Muni is very peacefully listening. Narada Muni is such a great devotee, he doesn't mind. He knows how Daksha is so frustrated. You are supposed to be a great devotee. You are supposed to be compassionate to others and benefit others. But you are such a crook. You are creating all this enmity. Are you not ashamed of what kind of abominable things you are doing? Do you think simply by giving lecture and making them excited for renunciation, they will be actually renounced? Don't you know the philosophy? Let me tell you the philosophy. Now Daksha is trying to preach to Narada. One must enter Grihastha ashram, work very hard, earn money, do yajnas, do pious activity, then eventually one will develop detachment. And then they can renounce. Right? The same kind of philosophy which we discussed. This is the philosophy of the religious people. Do everything in life nicely, be religious, enjoy everything. When everything is done, you have grandchildren, they are also happy, settled. Then you can go to Tirtha Yatra, read your books, do prachar, whatever else. Before you go, make sure you write the will to your children and grandchildren. And then you can go on Tirtha Yatra. Daksha saying, because only when you go through Grasta life, then only you will be actually detached. Otherwise, how? Simply by doing like this, real renunciation will come. Prabhupada says, this is not true. Is it that just because those who go through married life, they become renounced? We have gone through married life for tens and thousands of lifetimes. It is not simply by going through married life one becomes detached. Of course, if one goes through sinful married life, then definitely one will be extremely entangled. But even pious married life doesn't guarantee detachment. If one has a pious married life and is parallelly cultivating devotional service, then yes, there is a chance by the time he comes to 50 plus, he will develop a distaste for material nature. That is possible. But detachment doesn't come naturally. Otherwise, we all would have been detached. So many lifetimes we have been there. How many people who say that one should dedicate life to God after retirement? How many after retirement have actually dedicated their life to God? Nobody does it. Because these things don't come simply with age. True detachment, Prabhupada says, comes by the mercy of association with a pure devotee like Narada Muni. And actually, the truth is that these Haryashvas are actually ready. They were not just simply impelled, towards renunciation just by one class, excited, renounce, 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 but our life is miserable. Yes. Sometimes people get excited for 1 day, 2 day. Now I'm going to give up everything. So Daksha was arguing that, you just got my children excited about renunciation, but they are not actually purified. Actually, they were purified. They had developed proper knowledge. And Narad Muni understood that they were ready, and that is why he gave them that instruction. The Guru simply doesn't give instruction. The Guru understands the qualification of the disciples. Somebody who is still attached to material life, kind of instruction. For those who are thoroughly purified, he will give them another kind of instruction. So actually, Haryashvas were qualified, and that's why they were successful. They not only took to renunciation, they perfected their life and went back to Godhead. That means what Narad Muni did was correct. But Daksha was not willing to hear anything. He was just mad with rage. No, you shouldn't have done this. They were not renounced properly. You pushed them into renunciation. You spoiled their life. If they were now here, they would have been such nicely with married wives and children and ruling the planet and this and that. You have given me such misery by misguiding my sons. And for no reason, you pushed them onto the path of renunciation. If you had done this once, Narad Muni, I would have tolerated. This twice. Second time. First time I kept quiet. Second time again you did this to my 1,000 sons. You are such a rascal. You don't know how to behave. Don't know who I am? I am Daksha Prajapati. This is my seva to the Supreme Lord. And you are interfering. You don't know how to behave towards others. That's why I curse you. He became so mad with rage. He was cursing Narad Muni. He cursed Narad Muni. I curse you that you will never be able to stay more than a few days in any place. You will have to continuously keep traveling. You cannot make any place your residence. So Narad Muni was listening to all of this very peacefully. Narad Muni is a perfect saintly person. One of the qualities of a saintly person is what? Tikshavaha karunika suruda sarvadehina. Shiva means very tolerant. Karunika means very compassionate. Shiva karunika. Very, very compassionate. So he was not. Actually, Narad Muni is so powerful, he could have counteracted the curse and cursed Daksha back. But the Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami explains that Narad Muni accepted willingly the curse of Daksha. And he did not retaliate. Just accepted, yes. If these words are coming from the mouth of Daksha and Krishna is allowing it to happen, so be it. Maybe that is Krishna's desire, that I don't stay in one place, that I continuously be traveling. So he took the curse in a positive way. He said, that means I must keep on preaching. I must keep on traveling. That is Krishna's desire. So Srila Prabhupada writes such many beautiful purports in this chapter. Actually, so many beautiful points are there. We don't have time to discuss all of that. I'll really encourage all the Grihastha devotees, because there are no renounced devotees here. Maybe you're internally renounced, but we are not wearing saffron cloth. But wonderful instructions here. And Srila Prabhupada says very nicely in the purports, says that I have also inherited the curse of Narad Muni, because I am coming in the disciplic succession from Narad Muni. So I am also not able to stay in one place anywhere. And why I have inherited? Because I also am in the same situation like Narad Muni. Why? Because the parents of the children whom I am preaching to, they give up their family and come and join the temple. Their parents become very upset. Oh, you took my children away. They are young, they are engineers, just graduated from IIT, from engineering, from medical college. They had such a bright life in front of them. You spoiled their life. You took them away from us. So they are also like Daksha, unable to appreciate the good fortune that has befallen them and their children. And rather they become upset on the saintly people, not understanding how actually it is a great good fortune. So Prabhupada says, I also have to deal with this. I also get curses of my disciples' parents. So I also have to keep traveling. I have inherited in parampara this curse of Narad Muni. And Prabhupada, with a very interesting point, he closes this whole chapter. He says, see, I have to continuously travel because I have inherited this curse. But now I have to do so much translation of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I need to sit in one place so that I can do all my... So I am requesting my disciples. Now you should all travel all over the world and preach. So that I can sit in one place. I will transfer my curse to you. Curse in the sense that you can travel so that I can sit and I can do the translation. So such an amazing spirit. So essentially Prabhupada is saying preaching, even though a preacher is actually so compassionate, actually such a well-wisher, but oftentimes a preacher is misunderstood by the world. He's sometimes seen as the breaker of families, the one who creates problems, who takes people away from their family, creates discord in a family. And we have seen this so many times. This has been my own personal experience. I will not narrate that. And the experience of so many others. So this story is not new. This story is repeating now. The only difference is, instead of Narad Muni, there are the descendants of Narad Muni who are preaching. And there are Daksha-like mentalities still in this world. Not as powerful and accomplished as Daksha, but the Daksha consciousness that we want our children to be expert in material affairs and have high material attainments. That is the success of life. And any spiritual life is also good, but can be done after everything else is done. When you are good to do nothing else, then you do spiritual life. But that is not the purpose why we have come to this world. This whole material world is a place for us to purify. Tapo divyam putra kayena sattvam shuddhaye yasmad brahma saukhyam tvanartha. King Rishabdev's sons were given this instruction by Rishabdev. The fourth canto we discussed this. Oh my children, the human life is not meant for enjoyment. It is meant for transcendental tapasya, so that one can become purified of this materialistic tendency and attain the supreme destination. Utrakayena sattam shuddhaya yasmad brahma saukhyam. So even amongst the circle of those who follow the Lord, there are those materialistic devotees and there are the true transcendentalists. And externally, both may look similar, but then when we go deeper, we find who is still rooted with a desire for material enjoyment. And those who are actually willing to give up everything for the Lord and surrender to Him. And such people are very dear to the Lord. The Lord loves people who are willing to risk for Him. Those who want to play it very safe, no, I will do everything else in life. I'll take care of myself all the way. Oh Lord, I am yours after I'm 60. That also doesn't happen, but they say like that. That also doesn't, but they say like that. So it's like saying, you buy a beautiful rose flower, and when the rose is just blossomed, it's fresh, fragrant, you don't want to offer it to the Lord. You want to keep it with yourself, decorate, smell, give to your girlfriend, roam around it for a few days. Finally, when the rose is wilting and about to dry up, say, oh Krishna, this rose is for you. Please accept it. I'm offering it to you with such love and devotion. After all you have extracted out of the rose, when it is drying up, you want to offer it. Of course, Krishna is so kind, even that he doesn't mind. But the point is that the right thing to do? Krishna is willing to accept us at any stage of our life. It's Krishna's greatness. But shouldn't we offer a fresh rose to Krishna? You understand? Yes. Then Krishna will appreciate. Yes, he gave up all other considerations and he offered Tava Asmi Iti Yachate. Oh Lord, I am yours. Even once somebody does, Krishna says, I will immediately take charge of the life of such a. So there are so many beautiful points. I do not have time to discuss all of that. We are already at 10 o'clock. Need to discuss recite the Damodara Ashtaka also. So I'm going to pause here. We'll recite the Damodara Ashtaka and then if there are any questions or comments we can take. So I'll encourage everyone to read the purports, especially the purports of the last 5-6 verses where Prabhupada explains all these points very nicely. He's explaining his own debacle in relation to what Narada Muni had to go through. So the pastimes of the Bhagavad, or for that matter, Ramayana and Mahabharata, those characters may have been extraordinary and great, but the same story with a different set of characters may not be so powerful or illustrious. It's still happening everywhere. So this is how we have to learn. It's not that Daksha was a ordinary sinful materialistic person. He was a very pious, God-loving. He was so austere and accomplished. He managed to get the darshan of Lord Vishnu. But still, he wasn't there yet. And that is why this clash between a mixed devotee and a pure devotee, because the mixed devotee was unable to understand the higher principles of religion. What is the higher principle of religion? Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja ham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha. You have all other varieties of religion and surrender into. That was Krishna's message to Arjuna. So we'll end the class here and we'll recite the Damodara Ashtaka. Before I recite the Damodara Ashtaka, I just want to mention, some of you may have already seen in the WhatsApp group, we have posted an invitation. We are having a Damodar celebration in Kuala Lumpur. We usually have this every year. We have booked a hall, nice feast. We'll have a wonderful program. We are expecting around a couple of hundred guests and devotees to come. So it will be a reasonably well-sized event. So please treat this as a personal invitation of Of course, the invitation is for everyone, but I can understand that those who are not in KL, if you come, we are happy. But especially those who are in KL, please do join. And if there are others who think may be interested, who are new, you want to introduce them to Krishna consciousness, can bring them along also. But just make sure that they have registered, so we know how many are coming, so we can arrange prasadam accordingly. So we have booked the hall and we have arranged a devotee caterer to cook. It's a nice feast. It's a proper dinner prasad. So it will be a nice grand event for all the devotees also to come together. So many of you have already privately confirmed to me. Others, those who have not, please do that. And of course, continue in your own ways to encourage devotees to encourage others to connect to Krishna and Damodar by organizing not necessarily a big program on this scale, but small, even going home to home, inviting friends and family to your home and having simple, small Damodar programs. That is also a pleasing service to the Supreme Lord. Okay, thank you very much. Sing the Damodar Ashtaka. नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं यशोदाभियोलुकालाटवमानं परं हृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य उदन्तामुहुर्नेत्रां युग्मां मृजान्ताम् जरां भोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुश्वासकं पात्रीरेखाङ्ककण्ठा स्थितग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तम् आख्यापयन्तम् तदीयेषु तद्मेषु भक्तैर्जितत्वं पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शतावृत्ति वन्दे वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षं वदिं वा न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरेशदपीहा इदं ते वपुर्नाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्य अविरास्तं किमन्यै इदं ते मुखाम्भोजम् अत्यन्तनीलैर् कुण्टलैः स्निग्धरक्तैश्च गोप्या मुहुश्चुम्बितं बिम्बरक्तधरं मे मनस्य अविरास्तं मालं लक्षलाभै नमो देवः दामोदर अनन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजोलाब्धिमग्नम् कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्याति दीनं बतानु गृहाणि क्षमामाज्ञं मेदि यक्षिदृश्या कुबेरात्मजौ बाद्धमूर्त्याैव यद्वत् त्वयामुचितौ भक्तिभजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकाम्ये प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेऽस्ति दामोदरेह नमस्तेऽस्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिधाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय यथा विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीयाय प्रियायै नमो अनन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् यशोदाभियोलुकालादवमानम् परं हृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्या हरे कृष्ण Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar Radhe. श्री राधा दामोदर भगवान की जय. श्री कार्तिक मास की जय. सामवेद गौर भक्त. Is there any question, comment before we conclude? Okay. Wonderful. So continue to have a blissful Kartik, and I will see you on Tuesday. And those who are in KL, I will also see you on Sunday physically the next week. So do please join. We will post pictures and videos. So it's always nice when devotees actually come together. Of course, we are doing virtually. One of the reasons we are continuing to do virtual because so many of you are not in KL. So, I want to continue to keep in touch with you because if I do physical, then, only some of you will be able to attend. So, but of course, as I always mention, wherever you are, remain connected to your local congregation of devotees and find an environment where you can, develop your devotion very nicely. Because as we see repeatedly in these pastimes, what is both the beginning of the transformation and the nourisher of devotion, the life of a devotee. The primary ingredient is the continual, regular association with devotees. So, of course, this is also a form of association. We are all coming together and discussing Bhagavad. But a more fuller experience of association we can have when we are in a congregation, together chanting, together dancing, together worshipping, accepting prasad. So this is good. That is better. So, of course, this is more accessible. That will require a little more effort. Get out of our homes, step out, spend some time, be there. But it's always so much more enlivening and inspiring to be in that association. Okay, so hope you all had also a wonderful Damodar Puja wherever you have been. So I had a good time here, Jagannath Mandir, very nice celebrations. Also the Divine Disappearance Day yesterday of Srila Prabhupada. Our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada because he has made all this knowledge available to us in the disciplic succession from Narada Muni. So our humble obeisances to Prabhupada and our heartfelt gratitude, and we seek his blessings and his continued guidance to all of us so that we can. He is the representative of Narada Muni who's pulling all of us out. In fact, in one class, at the end of the class, Prabhupada told one of his disciples, said that, didn't you see? Narad Muni had come in our class today. The disciple is like, really blinking his eyes, not knowing what to say. So a couple of times, Prabhupada has made these kind of statements. So the great souls, our predecessor Acharyas, they are also very excited when they see the mission being spread so nicely. and they descend from their abodes to see these pastimes. Because we must understand what is happening here is actually an extension of Mahaprabhu's pastimes of preaching. This is divine Leela. This is not some ordinary mundane event. And great souls, the devatas, the great pure devotees, we may be small devotees, struggling, ordinary people who are just becoming devotees. But the great souls, they get so much pleasure to see. Just see this Kali Yuga souls, they are coming together, dressed as devotees, chanting, dancing, doing something. Oh, this is so nice. And, they'll be so pleased to give us their blessings. So all these great souls are also watching and, giving their blessings. These are all extensions of the preaching Leela of these great souls. So we are always indebted to them. Only by their blessings and their grace we can actually attain something meaningful, and we can hope to attain a transcendental position. Because otherwise, even with great austerities, without proper association of devotees, at best we may become like Daksha. Very knowledgeable, performing wonderful sacrifice, even able to have darshan of the Lord, but still attached to material enjoyment. What is the use? And cursing devotees. That is not the destination we want. Then even after becoming Daksha, will go down. Because Daksha actually went down. He was Brahma's son in his previous life. He already came down by being born from a human father in his next life. Anyway, so let us make the maximum out of whatever great good fortune we have received. So again, thank you very much. Some of you have expressed encouraging words. Thank you all. Sachi Prema Mataji, Ravindra Prabhu, Anand Sundari Mataji. Thank you. So sometimes I may not respond individually to all your kind words of appreciation and encouragement. Sudhir Sundar Prabhu, Sneha Mataji. But I do read and I appreciate your encouragement and blessings. Thank you so much. I'm always grateful that all of you are giving me an opportunity to discuss Harikatha. That way I also feel enthused. You are my captive audience. So twice a week I get a chance engage in some seva because of your kindness. Okay, thank you very much. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri
Jai.
Prabhupada. Samaveta Gaurav.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.